Thanks for staying with us here on Joy 99.7 FM. It's time now for Newsnight, and headlines on Newsnight is brought to you by Eden Heights. Eden Heights, welcome home. In this edition, crack the whip to reform the police service. That's the call by former Interior Minister Mark Woyongo to President Akufo-Addo, who is tonight describing the police's handling of the missing Takoradi girls case as embarrassing.
That decision is for His Excellency the President to take, because it's a lot of an embarrassment to the government, and I think that the President should be deciding on what to do.
Meanwhile, a security analyst is cautioning critics of the police against challenging authenticity of DNA test outcome.
The police would not usually take these things into the public if they are not 100% sure. They will need the same evidence to prosecute them in the law courts.
We have details. Also, opposition NDC joined calls for the education minister to apologize or be sacked over his comments which sought to blame the former president and the NDC for the chaos that characterized first day of the school placement challenges. The minister is, however, standing his grounds, insisting only the president can sack him, as the ministry says the situation is calm now. In business,
what were the drivers of the economy's 5.7% growth recorded for the second quarter of this year? We have details in 15 minutes.
And government fights Auditor General over claims Ministry of Finance paid $1 million to Kroll Associates for no work done.
Kroll has since 2017 worked diligently and consistently, and their fees have been paid against the investigations that they have conducted. The findings to the effect, therefore, that there's no contractual relation are wrong.
And that's all coming up in the half-hour edition of Newsnight. We have match day 2 of the UEFA Champions League match between Juventus and Atletico Madrid. In the meantime, do join us with your thoughts and comments via WhatsApp on 0244 340 437. I am MFA Pau. Let's settle for the details now. And Newsnight is brought to you by Puma Card from Puma Energy. Cash-free convenience. Now, former Interior Minister Mark Woyongo has described the police's handling of the missing Takoradi girls case as embarrassing, suggesting one intelligence unit should have handled the matter. This comes on the heels of mounting pressure on the Director General of the Criminal Investigations Department, CID, Mami Tiwa Ado-Dankwa, to resign. The hashtag Tiwa Must Go started trending on social media right after Madame Tiwa explained that she wanted to give the families of the 3 Takoradi girls hope when she said she knew where the girls were. The former Interior Minister tells Joy News people should be held accountable to serve as a basis to reform the police service.
To be honest with you, kidnapping is something new in Ghana, and we need to train our people to learn how to handle cases like that, because training in every organization is not supposed to be a one-off thing. It's supposed to be continuous. And as new challenges emerge, we have to tailor our training to target those challenges. So I think that even though kidnapping is new, we can learn from other countries or other police associations which have better knowledge of handling such situations.
But in terms of the investigations itself, it may be new for us as a country, but the way it's been handled, one time we hear a press conference, we are told that we know where the girls are, they are alive, and another time we're told that no, we're just giving you hope. Another time also we hear, at least sometimes even from the ministers, we've heard from the Interior Minister, we've heard from the Gender Minister, and it looks like there's a back and forth. Then finally we are told that the girls are indeed dead. How this whole issue was handled, would you have had it handled differently?
Yeah, I think it would have handled it differently. At least we should have just had one outfit handling the situation, because A comes to say something different, B comes to say something different, D comes to say something different. It wasn't coordinated. And I think that, these are lessons. And I think that the security agencies will learn from it. We should have just one coordinated network handling it, so that we avoid these embarrassing situations. Personally, I think that the handling wasn't the best, but there are lessons, and I think that we can learn. We can learn from what has just transpired.
Should someone be paying for it?
Well, That decision is for His Excellency the President to take, because it's a lot of it's an embarrassment to the government, and I think that the President should be deciding on what to do, because I don't think that it augurs well for the security agencies, especially the police, because it tarnishes the image of the police service, and I think that we need to take care of it so that it doesn't happen again.
You heard the former Interior Minister, Mark Oyongo, but we understand that one of the 4 families has accepted the outcome of the DNA results. But here is the sister of Ruth Love Kwesing, Nanajua Kwesing, who says they've lost hope in the police and will only accept the outcome of the DNA results when it is redone.
How can this be? Even if you are come to tell something like this to your family, must you come around 7:30 p.m. in the night? Why do you want to kill our parents for us? We don't believe. We know our girls are alive. We don't believe it at all. We don't believe it.
But you know, DNA is supposed to be very accurate. So why don't you believe them?
Yeah, it's the same Ghana police who did the DNA test. None of the family members were present. As of now, we've never set our eyes on the bones. Even though we've requested for it that we want to also do our own. As of now, we don't know whether it was the hand they found or we don't know. As of now, we have never set our eyes on it. Even the clothes that they claim that they retrieved from the guys, as of now, none of the family members have seen the clothes. So do you expect us to believe this?
Now, brother of Priscilla Mantibia Crunchy, Michael Crunchy, says his family does not have the means to conduct an independent DNA test.
Well, we are accepting it based on the psychological trauma we've gone through. In fact, we've gone through a whole lot. Today we hear this, tomorrow we hear that. We are fed up. We love our sister. We wish she would return. But looking at the turnout of issues, we are fed up.
If the other family members go ahead and conduct an independent test on these human remains, and it emerges that they are not human remains of the missing girls, what then are you going to do?
Well, we would applaud. We would have said that. Well, let me say we are in support of them going on for further tests. But we as a family have gone through a lot, as I said earlier on. So if it turns out it's not the girls, then we would know the way forward. Maybe if we are to get someone who is willing to support us to do it. So, I don't think we have the financial muscle to do it. We don't even know the cost of going for a DNA test. So if we as a family, we are there, and anyone volunteers to help us do it, maybe we'll give it a consideration and move on.
Now, meanwhile, a pathologist and former Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Professor Ajiman Bedu Akosa, has also challenged the authenticity of the outcome of the DNA test. He insists that the outcome of the test is problematic.
These things must be done under optimal conditions. Any degree of variations might create anomalous reports. It is not that anybody has any cause to disbelieve what you say, but it has become a standard operative procedure. For Takoradi missing girls, that DNA test confirmed, so conclusive. And I said, no, a second eye is always necessary, particularly in a case of such national interest. That has not been done, or at least we've not been told that it's been done.
You heard the pathologist and former Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Professor Ajiman Bedu Akosa there. We've tried unsuccessfully, though, to reach the police on whether or not the remains will be released for an independent test to be conducted by the family on this. But we've been joined also on the phone by security analyst Mr. Adams Bonar. We're grateful for your time here on Newsnight. I've heard you make the point that, or cautioning against challenging the authenticity of the DNA test outcome. A second eye always helps, doesn't it?
Yes, good evening, MFA. Thank you for having me. Yes, a second eye always helps. As you are talking about a homicide, case that the police have discovered or recovered human remains, and they've done a DNA test that has come back positive. And we seem to we've gone to the market, making noise about whether it is the results are accurate. I've heard professors speak about it, and I'm wondering, because then are we seeking to get justice for the victims and their families? If we are seeking to get justice for the victims and their families, we cannot call into question the accuracy of the DNA results, because then once we do that, are we going to present the same results before court and say that they put the pieces together scientifically, and these are the human remains of the missing persons. And remember, in homicide cases or missing persons cases, you cannot. It's very difficult. You ask any prosecutor, you cannot. It's very difficult to prosecute without a body, without human remains. It's very difficult to prosecute. And so, if we are not very careful and we don't get proper or very good clinical psychologists to reach out to these families and let them tone down, because the actual case has just started. Because you have to go to court. You are going to have lawyers defending these people who are in custody. And if they get very good lawyers, you might not be able to have a case against them if we say the results are inaccurate. If the results are inaccurate, and I've heard this lady Ruth or something saying that their sister is still alive. If your sister is still alive, it means that the Nelson and the rest who are in custody should be freed. That is what it literally means, simplicity. They should be released. So
why should they be when they were kidnapped, or the girls were kidnapped by these two, or allegedly kidnapped by these two, and that we've not seen them? They feel that they are still alive, but another test will prove to them that they are still alive or not.
Well, the point is that, is the police, if you say another test is going to prove, so until that test is done, is the court or the police going to continue to hold these people? We've got to be fair and balanced in this case, because the actual case has just started. Because until the judges, so the court makes a pronouncement and convicts these persons or lets them off and say the evidence adduced is not just inaccurate, we are not going anywhere. Okay. So for me, Emifa, what some of us are calling for is that let's tone down, and these people should have their day in court with the evidence. Once these things are being done, if the families want to have certain things done, it can be done. But to say even release the human remains to us, releasing the human remains to them, I'm not sure how that would impact the case in court. I'm not a lawyer, but what I know has to do with.
But if that will satisfy them, because I was just going to ask you to indulge me to make that street argument or ordinary person's argument, for instance, that just release the remains to them, let them conduct the independent test, then we can all have some kind of peace, or inner peace, I should say.
Listen, the law is the law, Emifa. It's not about your inner peace. You don't go to court with inner peace. You don't go to court with your feelings.
But we are dealing with emotions as well, Mr. Bona.
Emifa, you don't go to court with emotions. I'm not a lawyer, but ask any lawyer. You don't go to court with emotions. You go to court with evidence. And so can we separate emotions from this whole case? Because the case has just started. Let's separate emotions, which is okay. Condolences to the family. And, yes, let's help them to heal. But can we, for God's sake, separate emotions from this whole case? If we blend emotions with this case, I'm telling you that it is going to be disastrous for all of us as a nation. As we said, 12 persons have lost their lives in the last 1 week. 12 persons under similar circumstances. We are not talking about it because we become too emotional. Of course we have to be, but can we separate emotions from this case? Because you don't go to court with emotions. You go to court with emotions, the judge is only going to look at the evidence and the facts and say guilty or not guilty, or we cannot pronounce, go back and bring more evidence. So we've got to be careful, let me find.
Okay. We're grateful for your time. That's a security analyst, Mr. Adams Bona. Well, Information Minister Kojo Ponkroma has been speaking about it today. He says that government commiserates with the families of the girls.
I think it's heartbreaking to receive this news, which is contrary to all our best hopes as a country. Obviously, it's shocking. It's a shocking moment, first for the families and to the nation at large. Government through the President has had opportunity to express condolences to the families directly, and will continue to engage and provide the families with the necessary support even at this stage. But it is a heartbreaking and a painful moment for us as a country. The police administration, if I follow their press conference well, tell us that though they regret that they didn't get enough actionable intelligence in good time to have rescued these girls, at least they have been successful in getting the persons behind this currently in the grips of the law, and we put them before the law courts for.
You heard the Information Minister Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. Now let's do some politics, because the National Democratic Congress NDC has described as reckless comments by the Education Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh that Monday's chaos at the Black Star Square during the senior high school placement was staged. The minister yesterday accused former President Mahama and his party of sabotaging the placement exercise. According to him, hordes of people were bussed to create the chaos, while some of the incidents of collapse were staged. He spoke on Ekusi Singh.
Yesterday, some of the people who are the independent squad,
on
about 50% were passed by JDM.
It's a specific allegation at somebody. In Oteki honor, you can prove it.
Honestly, Mr. Show. So because I do body when the Papani for be through Chroma,
on a
center, so be the problem, Omra. I did the yes, sir. You say, you see, who Ghana for Umoko, who trim near Broom. Obviously, the Papani need to say, men for just cut just this 50 microphone. Mokwachadam,
in general, in trash training, in an fake.
Maybe a fake.
Or collapse.
Yes, maybe a fake.
Now we can hear from the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition before we hear from the NDC, because they've described the comments as unfortunate.
How did he come by that? How did they come to that conclusion? How did they ascertain that these people were party people who were bursting there? I don't think all the people who are complaining, we've seen videos being circulating on social media, parents complaining about, their frustration. So if he's using what is happening at the Independence Square, which hasn't been verified as the basis of dismissing all that is happening, then it's marks of not wanting to take responsibility and shifting the blame to, your opponent, political opponent. And it's always a challenge when, politics is mixed with issues such as this, because then you do not get to the bottom of the problem to be able to address it.
Well, the NDC and its presidential candidate, John Mahama, was at the receiving end of the education minister's outburst. The party has a response. They want the minister to apologize or be sacked by the president. Here's communications director or officer of the party, Sammy Jemfi.
The comments of the Minister of Education, Honorable Matthew Opoku Prempeh, is very disgraceful and preposterous, and we are demanding an unqualified apology and retraction within the next 24 hours, failing which we will expect President Akufo-Addo to dismiss him if he's indeed serious about the governance of this country. Because Ghana is a serious country. We deserve ministers who are serious-minded, who are effective, and who are responsible, and not clueless, incompetent, and irresponsible ministers like Matthew Opoku Prempeh. He knows very well that it is the failure of the Akufo-Addo government to manage this year's computerized school selection and placement process, which has landed several thousands of students and their parents in the quagmire that we currently find ourselves in. It is therefore unconscionable for him to attack President Mahama and seek to blame him for his own mess.
So you had the communications officer for the NDC, Sammy Jemfi, there. Meanwhile, Press Secretary to the Education Minister, Rodney Nkrumah Boateng, has been talking about the situation at the Black Star Square. Yesterday, we reported that there was normalcy that was returned following Monday's chaotic scenes. And today, the situation is calm as well. Let's listen to Rodney Nkrumah Boateng.
It's been much calmer and much less stressful over the past couple of days. Under the minister's direction, what we have had to do, we've taken a number of strategies. You recall that there was a computer glitch that enabled certain students who had not been placed at all, 22,000 of them, who had not been placed, to be able to go into a self-portal and place themselves when on the ground there was no capacity in the schools. And that led to some difficulties because these parents then went to the schools and they were told that there were no places for them and they were not in the system, which of course caused a lot of anxiety, and that accounted in part for the massing up of quite a number of them here. That situation has been reversed. We made available the list of schools that still had space on them, pasted them on the walls. We set up 4 tables behind me here under the arch, and then more tables on both wings. And both wings got in national service personnel to just take people's details. And because beyond self-placement, there were other issues that people had. People wanted to change their schools from day to boarding. They wanted to change schools. They wanted to change programs. Quite a number of them, due to a number of reasons. And so what we've been trying to do as much as possible to take people's data and then pass it on to the placement center, and then they can see what they can do to assist them.
You heard there Rodney Nkrumah Boateng is a press secretary to the Education Minister. It's time for the latest from the world of business, and George Riafe is here with us. George, how are you doing?
Not bad. So today the Ghana Statistical Service gave the second quarter GDP estimates, and it grew by 5.7%, quite a significant growth. We'll be telling you what were the drivers of this growth for the second quarter of this year, and also the implications of the August inflation hitting 7.8%. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials. And First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you? Let's now settle for the details. Activities in information, communications, mining, and quarry subsectors of the economy helped drive the significant growth recorded for the second quarter of this year. This was contained in the GDP estimates released by the Ghana Statistical Service today. We have more in the following Business Desk report.
5.7% growth recorded for the second quarter could be described as significant compared to what we had for the same period 2018. Information and communication subsectors under the services grew by more than 52%, while mining and quarrying, which captures oil production in the country, was up by 14% in terms of activities in that area. However, this shows that things have reduced compared to what was recorded for 2018. Finance and insurance, which captures the banking sector, just had a growth of 1.4%. From the data, the Ghanaian economy is still dominated by activities in the service sector, accounting for about 50%, followed by industry with 35.6% and agriculture, which just accounts for 15.4%. The services sector also recorded the highest growth of 6.5% for the second quarter.
And that was a Business Desk report. Meanwhile, the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobna, has been talking about the policy response and the implication for the economy after the GDP estimate for the second quarter. He has been speaking at a news conference in Accra today.
Premised on these observations, 3 issues come up for our policymakers to reflect on. The first issue is that there has been a sharp increase in data use, and the question is has this got implications on the economy, and to what extent will these implications be sustained? We also realize that crude oil has seen a growth, and as I indicated earlier on, the economy for the period quarter 2 2018 and quarter 2 2019 has been mainly driven by the oil sector. What are the implications on this for livelihoods in Ghana?
And that was the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobna. Let's still stay on the economy because inflation for the month of August now stands at 7.8%. Now, this was after the Ghana Statistical Service started working with the new formula using measuring inflation, which brought on board more goods and services. Now, since we cannot compare this to the old figure because it's rebased, one will be asking itself, what would this new figure mean for government in terms of its target for the year, as well as the Bank of Ghana in terms of its medium outlook? Are they actually going to force them to cut the policy rate or increase it? Well, these analyses will still be going on in your offices and homes. The Ghana Revenue Authority today embarked on its first distress action targeted at individuals that have failed to honor their tax obligations. Now, this forms part of operations to collect name and shame campaign launched last month. Let's hear from Kenneth Chinebu Akodia. He's the lead coordinator for the task force.
We'll be going to the ministries, the agencies. They are keeping the millions, and that is. But the law doesn't discriminate. Can you imagine those keeping those huge sums? Why we shouldn't go for those ones? And we'll go with you. Any ministry, any department, any cabinet institution that is owing is as culpable as the small business like this one.
Ken Kobna is the coordinator for the Ghana Revenue Tax Force that is targeting individuals that have actually failed to honor their tax obligations. And finally, the First National Bank has rolled out a new service that is targeted at partnering with other businesses to extend banking services to the public. The Agency Bank initiative, which was launched today, is expected to help increase its footprints across the country. First National Bank has argued that this should help also support government's financial inclusion agenda by ensuring that they bring those who are outside the banking system on board with respect to these services like this. On the Ghana Stock Exchange, Fan Milk was down by 2 pesos and is now worth 5 Ghana cedis, 10 pesos.
Thank you very much, George Riafe, for business. Now, the head of the local government service, Dr. Nana Atto-Arthur, says government will soon engage the over 1,000 unemployed graduates of the School of Hygiene. The bonded graduates were expected to be automatically employed by the government after finishing school, but are still at home. This week on our citizen-driven conversation, Dear Nanado, we hear stories of these graduates who have resorted to selling ice blog and washing clothes for a living. Jojo Kobna has more.
President Mahama might not recognize the suffering of the people of Ghana and might not be hearing their cries because he has sadly insulated himself from the reality on the ground. The School of Hygiene for the past 4 years has been placed in our health system. I have met many of them and thousands more like him, young, vibrant Ghanaians who want to work but cannot find jobs.
My name is Dr. Dobeda Sala, a past student of Whole School of Hygiene, 2017 batch.
Unemployed since 2017, it has not been easy for doctors. So after failing to get a job as an environmental health officer, she tried to be enterprising.
We've not been posted since we completed school, and this is what I found myself doing, just to fend for myself. I do laundry for people, then they pay me a little so that I can for myself. It's not easy. That's not easy.
She's still hopeful of government placement of a job as an environmental health officer.
It depends on the quantity of the things. But sometimes 10 cedis, 20 cedis, 25. Yeah. If it goes higher, that means the person wants you to clean the whole house, like scrubbing, cleaning the windows, everywhere, mopping. Then they'll give you 50 or 60.
Samson is passionate about sanitation. He has bought into the president's vision to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa. He migrated from Ho to Ashaiman and sells ice blocks during the day, and then at night he packs biscuit for a living at a factory in Tema.
Since then we were not employed and I'm still in the house helping my wife to sell ice block. I'm also working as a factory hand. That 5 days you will be earning like 120 or even less.
Not getting his dream job depresses him.
Very bad. I'm frustrated. So at times I even think, let me just don't think about it. But if I'm thinking about that, I don't even feel for, I lost my appetite.
So you can hear the full package this evening at 7 on Joy News Prime on the Joy News channel or Multi TV. Now you can listen to the head of local government service, Dr. Nana Atto-Arthur, who's been explaining measures put in place to employ these unemployed graduates.
Those who came through interview and passed, we recruited them. This year again, about 200 recruited. And we are still, in conversation with the Minister for Finance, if we could get some more additions as far as clearance is concerned, so that we'll be able to recruit some more. But we need them. We would ask them to exercise restraint. We are still in conversation with the Ministry of Finance, so that this year, November, December, God willing, if we are able to secure another clearance for 2020 recruitment, they will make sure they have a chunk from the various schools of hygiene, so that will beef up our environmental class, mental health class, and then get more of them in our MMDAs.
And that's the head of local government service, Dr. Nana Ato Arthur. It's time now for fact checking, and today we're focusing on claims made by the General Secretary of the opposition NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, at a recent news conference. Raymond Akwa has more on the claims and the verdicts in this report.
Let's start with the NDC General Secretary's claim that as a result of the recent school placement issues, some students have committed suicide.
Some students are reported to have committed suicide.
This is mostly true. At least one incident is being investigated by the Agona Sreju police. This involves a 15-year-old junior high school graduate, Isaac Ahin, who was found hanging at Agona Asafo in the Agona East District of the Central Region. The disease, according to the family spokesperson, selected a school in the Central Region, but instead he was placed in the Eastern Region. Again, the police is not ruling out suicide, but as of now it has not been established and concluded that indeed he committed suicide, and this was due to the SHS placement. He also claimed the Electoral Commission, some 5 days into the exhibition exercise, had not furnished the political parties with copies of the provisional voters registered.
The Electoral Commission, contrary to the law, which requires the Commission to give copies of the provisional register to political parties before the exhibition, about 4 or 5 days into the exhibition, no such register has been released to political parties.
This is true. Indeed, Section 22(2) of the 2016 Public Elections Registration of Voters Regulations CI 91 states that at the end of the compilation of the provisional register, a copy of the provisional register shall be given to each registered political party. Since the limited registration exercise ended on July 9, 2019, the EC is yet to comply with this provision.
Raymond Akwa with fact-checking. And just before we go, government is disputing claims by the Auditor General that the Finance Ministry paid an amount of $1 million to Kroll Associates UK Limited for no work done. According to the 2018 Auditor General's report on ministries, departments and agencies, the Ministry of Finance acquired the services of Kroll Associates in 2017 to recover assets from identified wrongdoers, investigate allegations of wrongdoing, amongst others. However, in its annual report on public accounts of Ghana as of December 31, 2018, it said that Kroll Associates was paid with no evidence of work done. But responding to the audit queries, the Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah said the claims by the Auditor General that no work was done before payment is false.
The constitutional practice is that the Auditor General's report is submitted to Parliament, and affected ministries, departments and agencies are invited to respond. Whether or not they have a valid explanation, a valid response, they have to make that available to Parliament. Parliament then proceeds to make some consequential instructions. The Ministry of Finance believes that at least if this constitutional path had been followed, it would have had the appropriate opportunity to respond at the next forum, which is Parliament, and to explain as follows. That, 1, the transaction is properly backed by an agreement that took effect on the 13th of February 2017, pursuant to a letter of intent on the 2nd of February 2017 that was signed by the government of Ghana.
You heard the Information Minister Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, and we're out of here in 2 minutes and hand over to Gary Al Smith and George Hado Jr. But quickly, some of your comments that you've sent in via WhatsApp. This one from Musa Abatwa says, I entirely agree with Honorable Mark Oyongo. People must be held responsible for their irresponsible comments. If Ghana were to be a country that security apparatus are held responsible for their utterances, I don't think the CID boss will be at post after embarrassing comments made by her outfits. Now, Kofi Seidu says, I'm surprised about Mr. Buna's submission. His comment is not soothing. That's Kofi Seidu. Gilly says there seemed to be a subtle disagreement about a second DNA test from high places. Hope the bones don't get missing. Samuel Mensah in Kumasi says it was completely absurd on the part of the Education Minister to have gone on that tangent. He must accept his incompetency and rather be responsible. Some of your comments that you've sent in via WhatsApp. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of News Night here on Joy 99.7 FM. You want to stay? A number of fixtures today, up to 8 of them, but we're bringing you live commentary on Juventus and Atletico Madrid. Madrid, right? And George Addo Jr. and Gary L. Smith will take over in a bit.